Hello, welcome back. I'm the VO Gemini tutor, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be using one of the other Google Labs products, Notebook LM, and I'm going to show you how you can optimize your learning process using it. Today's example, we are going to be taking a look at the MIT Generative AI courses. This came out about a year ago, but these videos can be found on YouTube at the channel below. There's a playlist of 9 videos. This is not a replacement for watching these videos. I highly recommend watching these, but you can go ahead and do what we do today to get kind of like a study guide going that will help assist. So we're going to just jump right on into Notebook LM. This is the home screen. The first time you come here, there'll be a pop-up. Go ahead and just hit escape. You don't need to deal with that just yet. So Notebook LM is different than Gemini in the fact that it is a lot more self-contained. It only has the knowledge of what you provide it, so it's a lot easier to reference specific documents and make, study guides or strategy plans because it's not a creative AI. It's not trying to do the things that Gemini is doing, so it's less likely to hallucinate. It's a little bit more reliable, but it is specifically only for the projects that you are working on based on the information that you give it. So as you see here, I started to input the sources for the MIT AI course. I've got 3 of the videos already uploaded here, and it was at this point that I realized I should probably record the rest of my process to begin to show you. So as you see here, we're just going to copy the URL of that. We're going to add the source. I can give a little more in-depth of a breakdown on this a little while later once I have a lot more familiarity with everything. But right now we're going to click on YouTube and paste the URL. I accidentally pasted it twice, so we're going to get rid of that. But there's a lot of different sources you can upload. Google Docs, websites, sheets, anything like that can be added as a source. So we're going to now just take the time to go back and copy and paste every single one of these videos and make them a source. This doesn't actually grab the video itself, but rather the transcript of the video, and it is through the transcript that that the Notebook LM will search for the information. So we're going to add all of these. I'm going to kind of skip ahead until we're done. There's 9 of them. So if you're doing this, obviously grab all 9. So now that we've got all of that, we're going to add a little bit more, and I'll show you how we can do that. I think it's an important step. So go ahead and go back up to the top right here at Discover, and this is a prompting box, so go ahead and prompt like you would normally. And as you see here, I'm going to look for text-based documents for a more complete source list to supplement the information, because there may be things that the person in the video references that are not necessarily fully explained. Maybe they just briefly cover a topic, kind of gloss over it, expecting people to know it. Whereas if we don't know it, we're going to want a little bit more of an information, and we want it specifically from MIT. We want to make sure that we're using the same source because we want to understand the information that they're trying to portray, as opposed to all information about generative AI. Here, I changed the words very important to imperative. I've mentioned before the words you use in your prompt are important. They matter. Having a good grasp on vocabulary is, imperative. And so we're going to use that word to make sure that the AI knows that all the sources come from MIT and not anywhere else. So then in regards to learning, AI, generative AI, and foundational models as a whole. So I'm going to basically write that, but when I finish, I realized that by leading with foundational models and generative AI and ending with just AI in general, that would be a little bit more direct of a prompt, as opposed to putting the vague part in the beginning, put it there. And then I'm also adding and understanding, and then I change it to and comprehending. Once again, by changing the word usage, I may get a different response, and so I feel like learning and comprehending is more in tune with what I want. I don't want to just get an answer, I want to understand the answer that is given to me. That is one of the things that I'm actually really loving about Notebook LM. So it goes and does its thing, discovers a bunch of sources. We're going to kind of scroll here and see, yes, this is from MIT, yeah, MIT News here. All of these, there's PDFs, there's websites, a little combination of stuff. But all of these, we have a little button on the side of each of the title where we can actually open that source and read it more. Very important thing to make sure that the sources that you're about to put in here are as accurate as possible. I actually should have done a little bit more on this. I will be honest about that. I should have actually checked these sources, read through them, or at least skimmed through them to make sure they were good before putting in there, but I was just kind of focused on moving the example along. However, I do recommend that when you do it, that you do just quickly overlook the sources, make sure that they're good. It does give me a little overview. I do like the fact that this is going to be a non-technical introduction. I have some knowledge in this, but I still feel vastly under-informed when it comes to this. So we're going to show you a fun feature. I've really been enjoying this called the audio overview. And by right-clicking on the three dots there and customize, we have the ability of changing things around. I'm going to make it shorter just to save ourselves time, but you can go for a default like half an hour length or even longer if you have time to really go into a deep dive. So once again, we have a prompt box, and you want to be pretty specific and direct with this because it does take a while for the audio to generate, and so I haven't really found a great way of canceling it in the mid-generation, so you do waste a little bit of time with bad prompting here. So we're going to ask for some specific questions here because I want a general overview, but I want it focused on these kind of 4 topics specifically. And this is a great way of showing you that prompting here can be used kind of like any other AI text bot. You can just ask it out, give it a little format, give it a little bullet point, and it'll do its best to convey that. So what is it? How can it benefit mankind? What implications it might have? And how is the best way to learn it? So we're going to go ahead and finalize that. Like I said before, we're going to do shorter just to keep your time in mind, but default and longer are available. So if you've got a long drive to get through, then you can throw on a long podcast. If you click audio overview here just without hitting the 3 dots, it will actually do an overview, just a general overview of all of your sources. So if you want to exclude any of these sources, you're going to have to click on the checkbox to remove them before making the audio overview. So we're going to go ahead and skip forward because the generating takes a while. As you see here, it took us 4 minutes 21 seconds, and that is for a short podcast. So obviously the longer it is, and the more sources there are, and the more sources it needs to cover, then it will take longer. As you see here, we can rename it, but we get this weird white... Hold on, pause this for a second. We get this white box here. You can't actually see it. It's nothing selected, so you have to select it yourself, hit backspace, and then go and clean up everything. And then go ahead and type the name of it. You're not going to be able to see the characters, at least not for now. There may be an update later, but we're going to go ahead and name that Gen the Basics, and we're going to go ahead and give it a listen. It's pretty interesting, but go ahead and skip ahead if you don't care.
It really does seem to be everywhere now, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Our sources, they give us a really good handle, I think, on what it actually is, the upsides, the potential problems too, and maybe how you can start to learn about it.
Exactly. Yeah, today we're sort of digging into those basics, giving you that informed shortcut through the essentials.
Right. So let's start right there. What exactly is generative AI? How's it different from, say, other AI we might already know?
Well, at its core, generative AI, it builds on deep learning. It uses these really large pre-trained models called foundation models.
Foundation models.
Yeah, think of them as these big, adaptable AI brains trained on tons of general data, ready to be fine-tuned. Large language models, or LLMs, are a key type, often using something called the transformer architecture.
Okay.
So these models, they learn from just massive data sets, finding really intricate patterns. Then they predict the next token could be a word, could be a pixel, and that's how they create completely new content that looks a lot like what they were trained on. ChatGPT is probably the best known example.
Right.
And its underlying design, the transformer, it uses this clever thing called an attention mechanism.
Attention mechanism. What does that do?
It's sort of like the AI figuring out which parts of the input are most important for context. Like knowing which bank you mean based on the word river nearby, it helps it grasp meaning with, well, surprising nuance.
So that attention thing,
Hmm.
it sounds incredibly smart. Is it like intuition? Or is it just super advanced pattern matching? And how's that different from maybe the predictive text I get on my phone?
It's definitely advanced pattern recognition, yeah. But it's so sophisticated it almost feels intuitive sometimes.
Hmm.
But unlike, say, your phone just suggesting the next common word, generative AI maps what you put in onto this really detailed meaning space. It allows it to generate outputs that are genuinely original and make sense.
Okay.
It sort of takes your input, really thinks about the meaning, and then builds something new and coherent from its training.
Right, I get it. And when you grasp that creative power, well, the benefits for us, for humanity, they start to look pretty huge. What are the big wins our sources are pointing to?
Yeah, the potential is massive. Generative AI is becoming this very human-friendly interface for machines. It's boosting productivity like crazy.
How much?
Some estimates suggest it could lift global GDP by as much as 7%. That's huge.
Oh, 7%. Or
And in science, it's speeding up discovery. Things like understanding genetics, predicting how proteins will fold, that's unlocking new drugs, new
Yeah.
therapies.
amazing.
And for businesses, it's really changing how things run. Think boosting sales with personalized guides or predicting which employees might leave with pretty high accuracy, all with way less grunt work. It's about doing more, faster, and, smarter.
Those are definitely transformative benefits. That 7% GDP figure alone is quite something. But as always, our sources also map out the other side of the coin, the challenges, the risks, what red flags are popping up.
Well, yeah, there are definitely serious considerations. The environmental footprint is one big one.
How so?
Training these huge models takes enormous amounts of electricity. One source compared it to the energy use of a small country.
Seriously?
Yeah. And the data centers need vast amounts of water for cooling. It's significant. Then, societally, you've got concerns about jobs being displaced, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but also bias. If the training data has biases, say in hiring patterns, the AI can actually learn and even amplify those biases. That's a real problem.
Right, perpetuating inequality.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of misinformation, deep fakes. It gets harder to know what's real.
Yeah, that's worrying.
And industrially, there's a risk that just a few big companies might end up dominating because they have the necessary extras, the computing power, the exclusive data, these complementary assets.
Leading to market concentration.
Potentially, yeah. And that brings up tricky legal stuff, too, around who owns the data, who owns the AI's output, intellectual property questions. It's complex.
Okay, so it's powerful, potentially world-changing, but also comes with these serious strings attached. If someone listening is intrigued, maybe wants to understand it better, maybe even get involved, where do they even begin? How do you learn this stuff?
Our sources really point towards getting your hands dirty, basically. Direct engagement.
So coding.
Yeah, exploring open source libraries like PyTorch seems to be a good starting point. It lets you build neural networks, find tutorials on the basics, loading images, handling data in batches, those fundamentals.
Right, the building blocks.
Exactly. But it's not just about code. Understanding how to talk to these models, prompt engineering is key. Techniques like chain of thought.
Chain of thought.
Yeah, where you basically ask the AI to explain its reasoning step by step. Our sources say that's really how you get the best performance out of large language models.
Interesting.
So the main takeaway seems to be, don't just read about it, engage with it, tinker with the tech, understand the core ideas through practice.
That makes sense. A practical approach for practical technology. So wrapping up, generative AI, clearly a huge force, tons of potential, but also some real challenges we need to figure out.
Absolutely. And maybe here's something to think about. If these models learn meaning from the company words keep, what kind of company, what kind of context are we all creating for AI's future? Through the data we generate, the rules we set, how we choose to use it.
So it was a little strange that it just simply ended without kind of like a conclusion, but I do feel that that might have just been the fact that we did have a lot of information to cover, and we left it as a short one. Now it's got this really cool interactive feature. I hadn't played around with this before this moment, so I'm not too familiar with it, but you can actually talk to the AI.
Okay, generative AI, It really does seem to be everywhere now, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Our sources, they give us a really good handle, I think, on what it actually is, the upsides,
Oh, hey, welcome. What's up?
This really took me by surprise. I was expecting like a text-based question or something, but no, it actually hooks into your microphone. I don't feel like doing this right now, but I am very interested in checking that out later, especially when dealing with my own studying as far as learning my editing software, because I really want to use this notebook to learn. So now we can also generate a mind map. So we left all of the sources checked, so it's actually going to generate a mind map of everything that we have, and it does it relatively quickly, so pretty happy about that. But once again, we could have specified which sources we're looking at and what information we want to focus on. So as we see here, it opens up in a mind map format. It's interesting. I do like when the maps spread out in different directions, so I'd be interested in knowing if they have that option, but I didn't look around enough. And it's got some expanding, and we reached the end of our expanding ability, so we're going to go ahead and click on one and see what kind of information that it can give us. And unfortunately, it decides to say nothing. I don't understand why it would provide a link like that without being able to provide any more information, so do be aware that, it's not perfect. So subset of generative AI did not have any information. But if I go ahead and click this second one, after a little bit of loading time, we see it indeed comes up with a report dealing with more information. So this is a great way. Mind maps are a great way of visually representing all the knowledge that's available and quickly identifying what you don't know. So if we didn't know about this particular topic, we can click on it, and then it gives us a little detailed report. As you see in the bottom, there is a prompt box. You actually can refine your prompts now, so we could go down and specify a particular point of that note and then ask it to expand. So as you see here, we are clicking on Save to Notes, and that actually brings it up right here in the right. So now we have all that information compiled. If we had run a bunch of different prompts in there and refined a whole bunch of stuff and got it, that would have been a little bit more useful, but nonetheless, that is how you do it. You can also convert this to a source. So say for instance you come up with a lot of information, you have a lot of good details and stuff, you can now make this as a source. It's got a little summary right there, and this is now searchable just like any of the other sources are. So very helpful, very useful, and I'm really excited to learn a little bit more of it. Like I mentioned before, this is not a substitute for watching the video. Honestly, the information spoken aloud from a human being should be the first thing you do, but having this Notebook LM as a study guide or just a companion to that learning can help out a lot. So like I mentioned, this is a little bit different than my normal videos, not focusing on VO3 or Gemini actually for that matter. But currently in my research, I have been doing a lot more business-focused AI research, so I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit towards using these tools in a more practical, non-creative, small business empowering kind of way. So the next few videos may be a little more focused towards that. I'm going to be honest with you, I've been falling behind a little bit on my VO3 knowledge. There have been a lot of updates, but I just haven't had the chance to play around with them. But I do highly recommend these channels right here for learning more for VO3. They've been making some outstanding progress, and honestly, I feel like they can have a little bit more information on VO3 in its current state than I can provide right now. However, I am very interested in pursuing this small business empowering idea, so look forward to that. I will also be using Gemini in that process, so I will be learning more and teaching more, and obviously if I do come across any VO3 revelations that I don't see anybody else talking about, I will make a video about that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I've been the VO Gemini Tutor, and I'll see you in the next one.